So what we'll do is review the agenda. So kind of the objective for today's presentation is to provide you with some information on deploying converted Oracle Forms apps in Java. And we'll start with an introduction. I'll give you a little bit of background on CipherSoft specifically and the frequent questions and challenges our customers face on conversion projects in regards to deployment. And for customers that and from there we'll talk about when it comes to deployment, kind of the perspective from there's two perspectives, the developer perspective as well as the actual going into the deployment, the operational perspective. We'll look at some key points for each of those, and then we'll go ahead and go into a demonstration of a solution where we'll show you an automated conversion and show you how that gets deployed. And then, as I mentioned, we'll follow this with a Q&A. So, starting with about CipherSoft, it's a wholly owned subsidiary of Unified Corporation, and CipherSoft has an established and very successful practice for modernizing Oracle Forms applications. We do both upgrades as well as automated conversions, and we actually have a tool for the automated conversion piece that we'll license to customers. We're a member of the Oracle Modernization Alliance, or OMA. So for those of you that don't know, the OMA is an Oracle initiative to help customers modernize their legacy applications and infrastructure. And CipherSoft's participation in this alliance is really all about modernizing Oracle Forms, whether it be upgrading to the latest releases or conversion to Java. So these are the common questions that we hear from customers who are considering a conversion option to Java for the Oracle Forms applications, or even just a migration or upgrade. Customers have built really successful applications in Oracle Forms, but they're looking to modernize them in today's technologies to keep them relevant. And there's several options that include web enabling the application through an upgrade to Forms 10G or 11. Mostly we're seeing 11 these days, but there's still some folks just going to 10G R2. Another option is rewriting the application from scratch, and the third option is an automated conversion. And each has their pros and cons to consider depending on your requirements. CipherSoft offers services around all of these options, and really choosing the right path among these three is a webinar topic in itself. But for today's webinar, we're going to focus on the data points around the last two questions, which is how will I maintain and extend the applications in Java, and is there an easy path to J2EE for the developers? As I mentioned earlier, and this kind of ties into that last statement, there's kind of a development perspective and a deployment perspective to these questions, and we'll start with the development perspective. Customers are looking to reduce development and deployment costs by consolidating their technology platforms, and many have chosen Java as the primary platform, particularly if you're invested in the Oracle stack. However, there is, at least with a lot of the customers we talk to, there is a lot of uncertainty around all of the components in a Java platform that will be needed to achieve the same results as what was done in kind of the self-contained Oracle Forms environment or Oracle Forms framework. Another factor in consolidation is the staff skill sets. You know, some of the CIOs I've spoken to, one in particular said, hey, my Oracle Forms developers are not getting any younger. And, what he elaborated on that is, where he's coming from there is the workforce coming out of our education system is really not taught or proficient in Forms anymore. And, the staff that they're bringing up, even when they train them on them, that's not where they're wanting to spend their time. So organizations are looking to leverage their Java development staff because that's where they seem to be more heavily invested these days and where they are able to draw from a job pool, if you will. Other organizations really just are looking to find an easier path to Java than a Java IDE for their Forms developers, really because it's such a low-level coding and approach, and they're wanting to kind of leverage the experience and knowledge of the Oracle Forms developers in the business application to be converted. So I gave you a sec just to kind of read through this. These are the key challenges from a developer's perspective. So a converted application should be intuitive, whether it's for the original developers to maintain in the new environment, or whether it's developers who have no experience in the original application. And practically speaking, this means that your path to Java should provide a one-to-one conversion in the code as much as possible. And that's why you see these things like retaining the business logic from the original Forms application, very key. Ensuring the Java code that's generated is clean, maintainable, and structured. In addition, the impact on the end users of the application need to be considered as well. And so that's what that last bullet is about. And reproducing all of the functionality of the application is not enough. It needs to behave similarly over in the new environment in order to avoid retraining the end users on the application. This similar behavior can minimize the risk of user frustration and also just kind of speed the adoption of the converted application over in the new environment. So I'm going to go ahead and, whoops. This graphic here, and what I'm seeing now is it's showing the graphic, but it's not showing the two text boxes above it. And really what those text boxes help illustrate with the graphic is really the keys to creating a path for the developers involved in the conversion project, whether they're the original Forms developers or the Java developers. So in addition to producing clean Java code, which is always a concern, and that has to be there, keeping the file structure of the components and objects organized much as they were in Oracle Forms provides a reference point for both the original Forms developers and Java developers that they can follow. So in the case of the Oracle Forms developers, this eases the learning curve into Java. If you look at this graphic, and I know it's very small, we'll see this in the demo, but you can see on the left-hand side the original Oracle Forms environment. In the developer, you see the project, if you will, for this application with the various folders, you know, for the blocks and canvases and objects within there. In the window kind of overlaying it on the right is the converted application in a Java IDE. In this case, it's probably JDeveloper, although I can't read it well enough to see. But you can see the project is in the same kind of hierarchy of the folders and structure, so that the Oracle Forms developers who are familiar with the app are going to be able to find the specific code segments that they need. They'll know how to get there because they knew how to get there in Oracle Forms. And then for Java developers who are accustomed to low-level programming, it just provides a higher-level view of the database-driven business application that they now must manage. So again, I know those text boxes aren't showing up there, but they're basically kind of, at least the graphic is there, which is key. The text boxes were just pointing out how, you know, what's preserved here are component names like the forms menus and libraries, the visual item names and triggers. You'll be able to recognize all of that in the converted code, but we'll save that for the demo. You'll be able to see that firsthand. So I want to take a moment to talk about the Oracle Forms framework as well. And this applies to the development perspective, but it also is a good segue into the deployment perspective as well, because it's really a key thing that's often overlooked when converting or rewriting your application is this Oracle Forms framework. You know, Oracle Forms, for those of you that work in it, as you know, is a 4GL. It allowed the developer to really focus in at a high level, you know, their business logic, the look and feel, the flow of the application, the user navigation, but they didn't have to do all the low-level plumbing or coding, if you will, to handle the things like synchronization between the fields and screens and fields in the database, all that event handling, trigger handling, all that kind of lower-level stuff was handled in the framework. And so what this illustration shows you is kind of a high-level representation of the Oracle Forms application within that framework, if you will. So there's the user interface, the business logic, the framework, as well as the database. And, you know, having that framework recreated over on the Java side so that the developers can continue to focus in on the high level is something that you'll see that's done in our solution. That way you can go right back to the code you actually created and focus in on maintaining and extending that. And that's also one of the benefits of an automated conversion solution, is because all of that has been handled, that's where our customers come back and say, yeah, this has provided huge reductions in cost and time versus a rewrite because of those underlying components. Now, you get the source code to those underlying components or framework as well, but it's there for you because that's something that's repeatable in every Oracle Forms application. Now we're going to go ahead and go on to the deployment perspective. And before we look at deployment of Java applications, wanted to do a kind of a level set, and we'll just look at a basic deployment in Oracle Forms 6i here. And we're using this picture to help illustrate the basics of the deployment. So typically, there is, at a minimum, a separate development environment and a production environment. But usually, there's also a test, and there could even be a staging and so forth. But the developers kind of built the application, which consisted of FMBs, PLLs, MMBs, OBJs. I know I'm throwing out a lot of acronyms, but the Oracle Forms guys out there will know what that is. And once the development and testing is completed, the application's compiled, except for the OBJ, into the FMX, PLX, MMX files. And all of these compiled files and the OBJ are moved to the file server where they're made accessible to the clients. Now, I bring this up because some customers do partial deployment in the Oracle Forms environment as well. And the reasons for doing this, or at least what I've seen, ranges from customers who are modifying the application on a daily basis, actually, to customers where, because of the nature of their business, there's certain time periods where changes are being made frequently. So they might go a while without having to do changes, but then there will be certain periods where they're making a lot of changes. And in Oracle Forms, just the parts of the application that have been modified can be redeployed, whether it's a form or a library or a menu. So, for example, a developer could make a change to a form, test it, recompile, and deploy that FMX to the file server, replacing the old one, and that would just incorporate in with the MMXs and the PLXs, and so the associated menus and libraries in that form didn't have to be recompiled. So now let's talk about, and we'll kind of touch on that scenario in the Java environment as well, but let's give you an overall picture here. So when an Oracle Forms application is converted to Java, the application is deployed to an application server environment, such as Oracle 10G or Oracle Fusion, the Oracle 11G, I guess we should call it now, etc. So the steps required in the deployment process can vary based on the network and security requirements you have. For applications outside of the intranet, there might be some additional parameters for security that need to be incorporated, like single sign-on or encryption. All of that can be done. So in Java, much like in the Oracle Forms, the application is compiled into a collection of files as well that consist of Java code and classes. And at deployment time, these are zipped up, if you will, into a WAR file that is deployed to the application server. And so this is all what standard stuff that you would see in your J2EE environment, and we follow those precepts. So organizations with application server infrastructure already in place usually have a process for deploying these WAR files. And in the case of our solution, that's you get that WAR file for the converted application, and that just gets deployed out there through your application server for your deployment process. And what we actually do in projects where we're involved with our customers is we provide simple step-by-step instructions for deploying on the Oracle application server, or depending on the environment you have, for any applications that have been converted with our solution. Now, we had talked about the partial deployment in Oracle Forms, and I wanted to come back to that because a different approach has to be used for applications once they're converted into Java if they're modified frequently, because once in Java, that partial deployment I mentioned cannot be done like how it was done in the Oracle Forms scenario. So instead, you can't just take one file and just because of the way that they're all zipped up together. So instead, what we see organizations using is source management software to manage that build release process, if you will, when they're making modifications. And many of the source management solutions out there have a utility or mechanism that can automate that process so that the application can be pushed out on a daily basis with modified files without a lot of manual intervention. So you can achieve the same result, a high level of automation for it, but it's not going to be that, okay, I just changed this file, let me zip that out and zip it back in. And actually, zip is probably the wrong verb to use there because of the connotation with zipped files. But, there are solutions on the Java side, particularly in the source management area, that help with that kind of scenario once you get over into Java. And then what this diagram shows kind of that I've been talking around to this is a converted application that's following J2EE standards, like what our solution does, how the Oracle Forms application, once it's converted, is kind of broken up. So you see that there is the business logic is a section, there's the data access control, and we're just showing what some of the technologies for those different pieces. And what you see here is that this is really following a model view controller type of architecture in the Java environment. And what's nice about this is that because you get all the Java source code for your converted application, you can see that how it's kind of broken up. It lends itself well to if you're using an SOA type of approach and you're wanting to take like the business logic and package it up and be able to leverage it in other parts of the organization or expose it to different kinds of client interfaces. There's things like that customers want to do. That's one of, sometimes that's one of the reasons why they're wanting to get the application over to Java so they can integrate it in or pieces of the app in with other things across the enterprise. This really lends itself well to that. So with that, we're going to go ahead and go into the demonstration and kind of talk about some of these concepts or show you some of these concepts we've been talking about. Some key points to kind of keep in mind during the demonstration is we're going to convert the Oracle Summit application. So this is an application that they use in a lot of their training labs and exercises. It's not as complex as some of your applications, but it's also not just a simple form. I mean, it has menus, libraries, business logic. It has a couple extra canvases. So you can get a feel for seeing, the various components and objects that you would typically see in your application, just on a slightly smaller scale. We're going to show you a full conversion of this application. Note, though, that you can choose just to do pieces. So, for example, you could just convert the PL SQL if you wanted. There's a button where you can choose that. But we like to show the full conversion because, one, we want to show you how this can get deployed. But two, there's a lot of different solutions out there that only do kind of bits and pieces of the application. They'll just do the presentation layer, or maybe they'll just focus on the business logic. We are able to convert all the key components of your Forms application, the menus, the libraries, the forms, as well as the presentation layer. The third point is what we were talking about in that development perspective, and this is especially key since I didn't have those two text boxes displaying on the screen for some reason, even though they are on the slide, trust me. Notice how the structure and hierarchy is maintained from that developer perspective. When we open up the application I believe we'll be doing it in Oracle's JDeveloper, you'll be able to see the project has that same structure and hierarchy, and you'll see that the objects, you'll be able to recognize the names of the various properties and components. That's maintained as much as can be. We're also going to do a like-for-like conversion. So, as I talked about, keeping that same behavior and user navigation is key. But also know that and that's typically what a lot of our customers want to do for their initial conversion. Their key is getting it over to the new infrastructure as quickly as possible. And then once they have it over there, they look at, okay, how can we extend, modernize the look and feel or the application in different ways. But we can also, and so we're doing a like for like because of that, but we can also do, we're not going to show it here, but we could use customer-defined templates for those that are wanting a new look and feel for their converted applications right out of the box. But again, we're going to show you the most typical way that customers are converting their applications when they take the automated approach. Now with that, I'm going to turn this over to Khalid for the demo. And again, I mentioned Khalid at the beginning. He's our Director of Client Projects or Customer Implementations. And this guy has been doing Oracle Forms work for many, many years. So he's involved both in Forms upgrades projects for us as well as Forms conversion projects to Java. So he's very familiar with the various ins and outs of Oracle Forms. He used to do custom Forms development and building applications in Forms. So just a great background that he brings to the table. He knows what he's talking about when it comes to Oracle Forms, and we'll have him drive the demo. And with that, I'll hand it over to Khalid.
Thank you, Matt. So basically what I'm going to do is go through the process of the conversion, which is of a Summit application, as Matt explained. It contains 2 libraries, 1 menu, and 3 forms. And this Summit application is not like a too complex application. It's only like a medium-sized application, but it does contain almost all the components that Oracle uses in their form, like hierarchy, tree, for example, master detail relationship, tab canvases, stack canvases, and another type of canvases. So and the same is true for business logic like dynamic record group and displaying the list of values and all those things. So you should be able to see my screen here. Matt, can you see at least? Can you tell me?
Yes.
Okay.
It just came up. We see your desktop.
So I'm not going to actually show you how to install the conversion tool and set it up, but at least I will give you a quick hierarchy of conversion tool itself. And it's very simple to set up. Basically, when you do, it's not like there is an install script. Basically, what you can do is unzip a conversion tool zip file, and it will it will expand all its folders and everything for you basically. So the most important folder is your input folder, where all your input files would be, which includes like the PLL, your FMBs and your MMBs and other input files that you want to convert. And the output folder is at this time is empty, but input folder has some of its files which we have already taken. Output folder is empty, but at the end of the day, when we are done with conversion, this will contain all your output converted files. Basically, the other one important folder I would like to explain here is your log folder. What we do in the log folder is it takes all the conversion output logs and then put it on a daily basis basically. So if, after 2 months, for example, if you go back and you say, oh, what we did on that particular day, you can go and then open that particular log file. For example, here you can see June of 18, 2010, for example, and 15 June and things like that. So you would know basically. So that's what I wanted to show, and then I can come back to Output Summit folder later on. So let me go back to the conversion tool itself. I have already opened that tool. Basically, by looking to the tool, it's very simple. There are few input items there. Like for example, package name, company name, and application name. There is a presentation layer option. There are 2 different type of presentation layer you can create. One is your applet string XML option, which is required like the plugin, and the other is your JSF Oracle ADF faces, which basically is an HTML pages when you run the application. The HTML pages will be rendered. The other fields are your input folder, as I mentioned, all the PLL and MMBs and all the modules will be there. Output folder where XML or ADF files along with the Java classes would go. and there is a database connection. We only need the database connection for one reason, and that is to find the references back for some of the declaration you do in Oracle form. For example, you can say when you are calling a package, for example, you pass arguments. So we need to know what arguments you are passing and what their types are. Are they integers? Are they double? Are they string or something like that? The same is true for column types. You can define a variable in Oracle form depending on a table column. So we need to know that. We don't write anything on the database. We don't change or modify anything on the database basically. That's the only purpose we need the database is for reference purposes. And the other thing what we do is there are options for the conversion process, for example. Like you can do the conversion of forms, you can do conversion of libraries or database packages or menus. So it's your choice which one you want to do a conversion first, but our recommendation is basically to do the library or database conversion first, and then do the menu conversion and go back to forms. And in the forms conversion, you will see that there are sub items, for example, because form contains canvases, form contains PL SQL logic and triggers or program units, and it has a database block relationship. So you can do those things individually, or you can do form conversion on its own and then go from there. So what I'm gonna do is I will start the conversion process taking the libraries that are there. So I'm gonna take the PL/SQL library, first browse it, and then select these two libraries, and then put it on the right side for conversion, and then press the conversion tool. These libraries are very small libraries. Even if there are like 10,000 lines of code in PL SQL, it should not take more than 5 to 10 minutes to do the conversion on those 10,000 lines. So once the conversion is done, you will see a log file that will identify the things that are not converted, or if there are any exceptions during the conversion process, or if it was successful. Since we have been converting the Summit application libraries for several years, so we know that they would convert. But basically what you will see in the log file would be, for example, a go-to statement. If you are using a go-to statement in your logic, then you will get a warning here that will say that go-to statement is not converted, it's been commented out, and later on, once it is in Java, either you can fix the logic there, or you can go back into form and fix it there with while or if statements or for statements, and then come back and convert them back again. There are other few things that can come up here that are not, maybe for example Java standards, like some of the items might be containing number sign. Number sign, when converted into Java as a file name, it's a Windows limitation, so we might have to convert it into a different character that will be understood by Windows application as a file name or folder name. But this is a log file that I was mentioning that will go on a daily basis. So if you are converting a project which is 1,000 files or 1,000 modules, for example, so you might be converting few today, few tomorrow, and like that. So you can keep those files for due diligence later on, and can be used as your audit trail basically. I'm gonna go back and then do a menu conversion. There is only one menu, so I'm gonna browse that menu here, and then do a conversion on that. And for conversion of menu, basically, again, the menu has two things. One is called business logic, the other is called presentation layer. Presentation layer is your menu items and menu titles basically. So that is why you are seeing that menu to XMLs there is a three process in menu. One is menu to XML files, the other is converting PL SQL logic and descriptors. So that's the log file. Again, it goes. Again, you might get any exception on errors. This log file will contain those exceptions and errors. The last thing what I'm going to do is convert all the three forms that is in part of this application. So I'm going to select all these three forms. One is customer, orders, and pick, and then say open and select them on right side for conversion, and press the conversion tool, and it will start conversion. And again, like in conversion, as I mentioned for forms, there are sub levels of conversion. One is like converting into XML, PL SQL logic, your navigation, your master detail relationship, and other things basically, whatever it can encounter in the form are converted as a one step. You can convert them separately, it's your choice. But again, this log file will show you if everything went fine or if there are any exceptions or not. So if I go back to that folder I was talking about, was output summit folder, you will see there are folders here, and then we can talk about these folders in little detail in few minutes.
Hey,
what I'm
Hamid.
gonna do next is take the last option. What this option does, it takes whatever has been converted in the output folder and create a WAR file, a template WAR file that you can deploy on any application server. That application server can be a Tomcat, WebLogic, WebSphere, or Oracle application server basically. So I'm gonna run this process so we can at least have a WAR file there. I'm not gonna go through the process of deployment in this, but it's part of the training. When you go through the training of this Exodus tool, that where we explain what the WAR file is, what are the files in the WAR files, and how to deploy and all these things. I'm gonna do a generate process here, and then once it is done, it will come up with a log message saying that it has been completed. So
Hey, Khalid.
yes.
Are you going to? You may be getting to this after this part. I want to make sure we show what the Summit app looks like beforehand.
Yes.
And okay.
Yes, I will do that. So
all right.
Once conversion is done basically and WAR file is created, what you can do, you can deploy that WAR file as I mentioned in any environment which is J2EE compliant environment, and with right JDK. Once you deploy the WAR file, you would be able to run it. And running again is through the browser. And if it is a plugin, obviously there would be some downloadable file, a plugin file. If it is an ADF HTML, then obviously it doesn't require you any downloadable part on the client side. So once the conversion is done, it is deployed, it can be run. So what I'm going to show you here is the before application, Oracle form application first. It contains of 3 forms. The first form is customer form, which has a hierarchy tree with master, detail, and detail. So the hierarchy tree is the master of this block, which is on right top, and this block becomes the master of this bottom block, which is your tab canvases basically. So if you change something on this one, it change here, and it does change on the. So it is master, detail relationship basically. And what it does, when you double click this thing, it will open an order form which contains the detail of that customer or a sales representative with the order number and order details with items. And you can go and add more items here by selecting which item you want to go. And it does have like MDI window application, so you would be able to see in Java how we converted that. It does have a content canvas that comes on top of it, which means like unless you quit this canvas, you would not be able to go back to the main order screen basically. So I'm going to exit this out, and as I mentioned, once the deployment is done and run on the Java side, this is how it would look in Java side basically. And you can see like on the left side Oracle form and right side Java. There are a few things like color might, or maybe like the presentation component. For example, it is saying minus here. It does say minus or dash here, but it has a folder. This is Java component, and this is Oracle component for tree. But the main thing is the functionality basically. We do a master detail relationship. We display the hierarchy tree. We do sortings, and we do like dynamic where clause adjustment. For example, if I go here, it will change this, and as well as it will change this. And again, like these are the tags that is in the detail block, and there is a list of value also that you can see as it appears on Oracle form. Normally it looks the same. The next thing I'm going to do is open our order form as we have done in Oracle form also. If you want to see the look and feel, we do cover like most of the components in swing part. Actually, we do convert all the components like radio button, check boxes, display items, dynamically changing the item functionality from display to enable to something like that. So all those things that is present in Oracle form can be done in Java side. Next thing I'm gonna show it to you, the MDI window, as I was talking about, is the same thing. Like there is a window on top of a window, and in this case it is a content canvas. Basically, you have to actually exit out before you can do anything on the previous canvas. And then last thing I'm gonna show you is the pick form. That is here, so you can see the pick form here. And there is images. We do handle images. We do handle some of the audio functionality for OCX and ACX. Obviously, it has to be changed differently in Java side, but it can be done easily. So basically what we did in our process is did the conversion of the forms modules, libraries and everything, and then deployed and then run on Java side under the browser plugin in this example. The next step what I'm going to show it to you is before and after code, like what it was in Oracle form and what it turned into Java. So first of all, I would like to show the structure that as Matt mentioned in one of the slides, that how the form structure will come up after the conversion. So I'm going to actually take first this thing here on the right side. If you see, there is a form called customer, and here we have a form called customer folder. And if you see that under customer there are blocks, control, navigator as customer one, and the same is true on this side, on Java side. We have created folders to represent blocks, and at each level of the block there are subfolders which represent items basically. So for example, in as customer one, if I go, there is an item ID, sales, and all those things here. Now the question is where the triggers will go, where the program units are going, or where are the parameters and alerts. What we do is that we create Java classes and at each level. So the Java class with the name of customer, which represent the folder name, is the main class for customer file, and it does contain. Let me open it in here. And if you see here, what we have is obviously import statements, and then down we have alerts here. So in this Oracle form, if I go back quickly in Oracle form, you will see there are two alerts, and these alerts are defined in Java class like this. Basically, there is a delete alert, which is delete alert. Name of the alert, is it a caution? How many buttons there are, yes and no, and which is the default button basically. So when the alert is displayed on at the runtime, this is where it picks it from. It knows which file exactly it has to go and find the alerts and then display those alerts. Now going back, the next thing is we show is all the form level triggers are in this file. So if you notice, there is a preform right here. So if I open preform this thing, you will see it is saying default value this one. One thing I would like to mention here, if you see the naming convention, basically what we do is we take the same name of the triggers, items, built-ins, which were used in Oracle form, and then Javaized those names in Java format basically. Like in preform, if you see, we take the dash out and we make it a smaller letter to start with, and the form is with a cap letter. This is a Java naming convention, so we apply. But we are using exactly the same name. So for me as a form developer, going to the Java side, I don't find it too difficult to do debugging in Java application in Exodus basically, because I know preform means this is the trigger that will be fired first, and then this is the logic. Like there is a logic right here. It is saying default value and go from there. So one thing more you would notice in all these triggers, for example, window, we have added this line. This line was never in Oracle form, but this is our conversion tool that added that. What this line does basically is, if there is an option at the deployment time or at the runtime, that if you switch the trace flag true, then you would be able to see on the server log file that which trigger or program unit the form entered at the runtime. So for example, if you have switched that out, then if you see this one that's saying when window closed entered, so you know that at runtime that this trigger has been fired, it has entered, and if it has completed successfully, there would be a statement after that in the log file says exiting. So this is very good actually for debugging purposes. When your client or users get an error, you can switch that function off for your developers who are testing that bug, and they would know which triggers or program units the code has entered and which came out. Rather than debugging from the start everything, they can only specifically go to that place and say, oh, it entered into when window closed, but there was no statement in the log file saying exiting. So the error appeared in this code basically. So that's the functionality. And the last thing we add in this file is the program unit. So every program unit in Oracle form will go in here basically. So if you see, there is a program unit called expand all. And if I go back in Oracle form and expand program units, so you have an expand all here. So expand all is what it is doing. It is firing these functionality, which is right here on this side, and it's as Matt mentioned, it's one-to-one relationship. You can match, okay, what was in Oracle form PL SQL, what it has converted to, and go from there. So basically, that's all we have to show on our technical side. Obviously, there are too many other things, but that is covered as the part of the training, or that is covered as the part of the license agreement and all those things. But with the time frame we have, I think we have covered the process of conversion, how the conversion is done, what is the structure of converted code looks like, folders. The only thing I missed, probably I would like to say, okay, if you go in this block file, like which is your S-Customer block, you would see there are more folders, but there is also one more file which is called S-Customer, the same name as the block name, and it does contain all the block level triggers and some of the block properties. So this is a block level trigger here. So at each level of the file or folder, we have a Java class that represents the item, block, or the form. And an item and block contains the block level, item level triggers. A form level Java file contains form level triggers, program units, alerts, parameters, and form level, and some other few things which are part of the form. Alerts, for example. Any
Excellent.
questions?
Yeah, what we'll do now.
I've covered everything on this side, so.
Great. So what we'll do now is we'll open it up for the Q&A. And again, the way to post a question is on your WebEx toolbar. There's a button with a question mark. And just go ahead and hit that button. It'll open up the panel. And you can enter in your question and then hit the send button. And give us 30 seconds and we'll start going through the questions. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start going through the questions. The first one is, what JDK does the tool work with?
So, do you want me to answer that, Matt?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead? That's one I can answer too, but we'll make you work a little bit more.
Okay, let
You're
me
the
do that,
technical
and
guy.
if you want to add anything, you can do that.
Okay.
Basically, we started with JDK 1.3, but it's not anymore supported. At this time, we are supporting 1.4, 1.5 for plugin version, and we are supporting 1.5 and 1.6 for ADF version.
Great. That's good. All right, next question. Do you actually license the tool, or is this just you're using the tool as a service with consulting? The answer to that is yes to both. So we actually offer an option One is we license the tool and we'll train you on it. Typically the training course is a week if we're doing it in person, but there are other things we look at doing. We've done some training for folks remotely via WebEx, things like that. But typically with a week of training with this tool, you are proficient enough to start doing conversions. And then we might sell a little bit of consulting just to help you out with the project, but it's not required. And then the other thing we do, some folks, either because it's not a big project or the resources just aren't available, they ask us, they're like, hey, would you just do the conversion for us? And we do that as well. We offer it as a consulting service, and there it's typically a fixed price bid. And actually what we do, and actually I'm going to kind of expand on this question a little bit. We have, part of the tool is something called the analyzer. And so in terms of coming up with the fixed price bid I mentioned, when we do it as a consulting service, is we run the application through the analyzer, and from the output of that analyzer, we can give you a very specific estimate of how long it'll take and what the cost will be for the project. And one of the things the analyzer will do is tell you as well what kind of, or we're able to take the output from that analyzer and tell you what kind of post-conversion effort is involved to get the application ready for production. As Khalid mentioned, there are some commands like go-tos that are not supported, and so it will flag all of those and tell us exactly where those are at in the application. All right, next question. Does this convert the reports as well? Do you want to answer that, Khalid, or why don't you start with that one and then I'll expound on it if need be.
Basically, report is not part of the Exodus conversion. We take it as services to convert into one of the report writer like Krista report writer and or JReport basically, or BI publisher if it is your choice. But this is a services process, and it is not the automatic conversion. However, like if you are just waiting for the reports to convert before you would start the form migration process, then at that time the decision you can make is to start the form conversion and call the reports as they are in Oracle form now. So you can call Java report. You can call Oracle reports from Java converted code.
Great. In fact, I'll expand on that a little bit. What we see out there in a lot of our customer projects. So just to sum up what Khalid said, our tool that we showed you, Exodus, is automated conversion of the forms application. It does not automate conversion of the reports. I know of no automated conversion for reporting out there. What we see a lot of customers do is they actually leave the reports alone for the initial phase of the conversion project, and as Khalid mentioned, from the job application you can call those reports, and that's fine. The downside to that is that you will still have to maintain your form server, if you will, to run those reports. For the customers that want to take it to BI Publisher or some other reporting solution that they've standardized on, a rewrite is involved. And as Khalid mentioned, we can do some of that for you as a service. That's not our specialty, if you will, but we do have the capability to do that. So if that was a requirement as part of your forms conversion, certainly you could look at leveraging us for that. There was one customer we actually worked with that was looking to convert to BI Publisher, and Oracle actually and we worked with them on the project. Oracle actually does have some utilities, if you will, to help do conversion from Oracle reports to BI Publisher, but it is not automated. So if your reports have business logic in it, like triggers, things like that, those would still have to be rewritten, even if you're using the Oracle utility to help bring over some of the formatting and presentation layer of the report, if you will. So keep that in mind. But again, it's a common question we get asked, and certainly we can always share with you what the other customers are doing there. Okay, next question. Can you please expand and differentiate between the plugin and ADF? Why don't I start with this one, Khalid, and then you expand on it based on how far I take it, okay? So expanding and differentiating between the plugin and ADF, first of all, I want to say that our webinar next month, we're going to talk about the different GUI options in more detail. So keep that in mind and look for that invite. But for answering your question here, we offer basically two options for the presentation layer. So one is the plugin, as you refer to it, and as you heard Khalid refer to it as, and that's where what we do with the presentation layer is it's in a Java Swing component, if you will, or it's using, I guess, Java Swing. But that can be done in a browser. But there is a lightweight plugin that's involved that that would be running, but you would still, from an end user standpoint, they could still use that from the browser situation, and that's what a lot of customers actually end up going with. But there are some customers who have are going to ADF on the Oracle stack, and so we offer that option as well to have the presentation layer be displayed or work within Oracle's ADF framework. In particular, what we support for ADF is ADF 11. We actually did some work in the ADF 10 or ADF in the 10G environment, but what we found and what our customers found was that there weren't enough of the objects and also enough of the properties and controls, if you will, for those objects in ADF 10 to really create that like-for-like conversion that they needed of the Oracle Forms. And I think in ADF 10 there were like 100 objects, if you will, and then in ADF 11 they went to like 150, and they expanded on the properties of some of those objects. So it became actually feasible to recreate in Oracle Forms something like a complex Oracle Forms app in ADF 11, and we're actually doing a project like that right now with one of our large customers, and it is working. It is more effort post-conversion in the ADF environment over the plugin, and that's because, again, to create that like-for-like, there's just some additional Java programming that has to be done after the conversion in order to recreate some of the functionality and properties that just aren't available standard in the ADF objects right now. But it is very feasible, and it's something that we offer. Is there anything I missed that we should add to that, Khalid?
No, I think you have done a good job on that one. The only thing like plugin and ADF, again, like as Matt mentioned, like it depends upon how business you want to run. Like if there are security within the intranet or internet, then sometimes people go to ADF because it renders the HTML page at the end of the day. It does not need any plugin download. So it's the business choice, basically, the difference which has already been explained by Matt. So yes.
Yeah, if you're not going with ADF as your framework, then the plug-in version, as we call it, is the way to go, and that still gives you a browser presentation layer, if you will. Okay, next question. Where will the converted DB PL SQL code reside? And so I'll start with that one, and then you can expand on it, Khalid. So for the PL SQL code that's in the database, we actually have an option in the Exodus tool where it will convert that for you into Java. But I think by default it does not. Basically, so we have the ability, I guess, to convert that into Java. But what we recommend to customers, if they're staying on the Oracle database, you're better off leaving that PL SQL code in the database as is, because you're not going to get better performance than that. There are some customers, though, that are looking to create kind of an abstract data connection layer, and so they do want to pull that code out of the database and have it in Java. And our tool will automate that conversion if you want with the click of a button. Next question. How can we get today's presentation? Well, actually, there are two ways we can do that. One is we actually recorded this webinar, and so this is available to you on our website. It'll be posted on there beginning of next week. And if you go to CyphersoftInc.com, and that's INC for Inc., so Cyphersoft Inc., www.cyphersoft.inc.com, and you go to, I want to say, resources, and then you'll see under there recorded webinars as well as some other options. You'll find this under there again by Monday of next week, and you can actually watch this and forward to key areas and freeze it and look at it, that kind of stuff. So that's the best way to get it. But also, if you have a project that you're trying to move forward on, and the presentation will help you in moving your project forward to management or something like that, just get in touch with your Cyphersoft representative, and they can get you a copy of the presentation as well. And we'll make sure that the rep for wherever you're located, I can't tell from your thing, we'll make sure the rep for your area gets in touch with you. Okay, next question. When is the next webinar I would like to attend? So it's next month in December, and actually we'll just go to the next slide. That's okay, I'll go back to the summary. It's Thursday, December 16th, and as I mentioned, it's GUI options for Oracle Forms applications converted to Java, and that'll be at the same time. If you participate in this webinar, you will get the invite for that. It'll probably come out a week before the December 16th. Next question, how is the code build done? Repository, question mark, subversion, question mark. I'm going to let you answer this one, Khalid.
Hello?
Yep, we can hear you now. Are you there?
Sorry, Matt, what were you saying?
Yeah, so the question is, how is the code build done? And then repository, question mark, subversion, question mark.
Like it's any other source code basically. Once you will have an output Java classes or XML or ADF, you can create your own repository and then use it as a source control system basically.
Great.
So we don't have any process built in our product to do that source management system, but you can use any third-party source management system for doing the same.
Okay. Great.
Oracle has Oracle Form doing the same thing like source management system. JDeveloper has source management system, but Exodus does not have.
Okay. Next question, are any wrappers used?
No, we do not use any wrappers basically. We convert everything from Oracle Forms to Java or XML ADF.
Great. All right, next question. Typical cost of the conversion, 66 forms, 1 menu, 6 object libraries. So we'll have your rep follow up with you to give you detailed pricing. But just for everyone, in terms of how the tool, if you were to license the tool for that conversion, the way the tool is licensed is it's a cost per form. So regardless of, you might have a couple developers working on the conversion, we would just look at for licensing you the tool, how many forms you're looking to convert. The menus and object libraries would be included in that per form price. And they would give you a price for that plus the training I mentioned for you as well. If you were looking to have us do the conversion, as I mentioned, we would run it through the analyzer and come back to you with a fixed price estimate and kind of a breakdown of where the effort is involved. Next question. What IDEs can be used? Really, any Java IDE can be used. We use JDeveloper internally. but we have customers that use Eclipse, I believe Data Studio. I'm not sure. Have you seen any other ones in use by customers, Khalid?
This is Peter. Khalid already had to attend another meeting, but I will be here to answer any questions.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, just before you answer, Peter, let me just introduce you to everybody. This is one of our top engineers. He also works on some projects as well, but he does some engineering on the product as well. This is Peter Stolk, great technical guy, and Khalid had to run off to take care of a personal item, but Peter's stepping in. So, yeah, just really quick, I mentioned a couple IDEs, Peter, that I've seen customers use. I mentioned that there is, I think they can use any Java IDE out there. I didn't know if there's any particular ones you've seen besides JDeveloper or Eclipse being used in our customer base.
Honestly, most of the clients are using JDeveloper, and we are using it in home also because it seems to be most reliable, and it can handle the very complex application quite easily. For example, we are sometimes doing some development here also, for example, in NetBeans, but NetBeans is still not strong enough to handle quite complex applications. So also, for example, our product, the conversion tool itself is basically Java application, and it was built in JDeveloper. So That is what we suggest also client to use, but basically you are not limited. You can choose whatever you want, you are familiar with. So it is pure Java code. Choice is yours.
Great. All right, next question. Hold on, I'm going up to the chat here. What do you do with the PLL and PL SQL in the forms? And I'm not sure, this gentleman may have come in a little bit late on the demo. That gets converted into Java, and it's put in the various folders that Khalid was going through on the demo portion. Okay, next question. After the conversion, can the code be independent of Exodus? And the answer to that is yes. In fact, the tool, whether you license the tool for the conversion or whether you use us as a conversion service, once you have that converted code, you absolutely are independent of Exodus. It's there for the conversion, but you get all of the Java source code from the conversion. And there's really two parts to it. There is your actual code that gets converted into Java, so you obviously get that source code and can do with it whatever you want. But also remember that in the presentation, we mentioned the framework, that the Oracle Forms framework, and we've recreated that over in Java so that you don't have to do all that low-level coding and recreate that every time. And so we also give you the source code to that as well. So you get all of that as part of when you license the tool or when you use us as a service, you get all of that source code, and so that you can maintain and extend it independent of us. You can do it, as Peter had mentioned, in JDeveloper, and there are no dependencies on us after that. The only restriction that we put on that the Java classes and libraries we provide for recreating that framework is we don't give you the ability to sell that out there so that you end up competing with us. Okay, next question. I saw some import statements referring to Exodus, so I need more clarity. I think what we'll do at this point is I'm just noticing that it's 10 after. We've gone over an hour. Why don't we have someone follow up with you in more detail on that, because I think that's going to be a pretty involved question. I'm thinking you're wanting to, because I think that's going to involve going to look at those import statements, and I don't think we want to go back into it at this point. So I see one last question, and it's a quick one. What would be the need of Exodus after the conversion? The answer to that, I think I touched on that in talking about how you get all the source code. There is no need for Exodus after the conversion unless you have additional forms that you're going to want to convert. But once you've finished the conversion, gone through your testing, and there's no pieces you're going to want to reconvert for any reason or anything like that, then there's no need for it. It's there just for the conversion. All right, well, with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. So first of all, me and Halid and Peter want to thank you for participating in the webinar today. We hope you found it of value, found it useful. As I mentioned, there'll be a recorded version available to you on Monday on our website. The next one is December 16th. We do these monthly. When you exit out, you will get a questionnaire. It takes 15 seconds to do. Let us know what you thought. Did you like what you saw? Were there things you were expecting that you didn't see? Are there things that you would like to see as a future webinar topic? We use that to do these webinars. This webinar actually came out of a recommendation from one of our webinar attendees months ago. The points I'll leave you with to keep in mind kind of coming out of the webinar is that this is a full conversion. It's an automated conversion, but it's a full conversion of the user interface, all the business logic, and the data access. It maintains the structure and hierarchy of the Oracle Forms project in Java, which, the impact of that is it's a shorter learning curve for Oracle Forms developers to maintain and extend the Java code, and it also makes it easier for Java developers to take it over as well. And then that the deployment really in Java is simplified with this Exodus solution. It's a much more cost-effective and time-effective way to get your Oracle Forms applications over into Java. All right, with that, we're going to close it. Thanks, and have a great day.